Welcome to Jackie's Learning Corner. I am Jackie, and this is my review of Evelina Galong's nonfiction work on the Filipino comfort women who were sexually assaulted during World War II. She is a Filipino American woman. So and she had gone to the Philippines in 1998 when she first started looking into this, and it wasn't until Anne had gone back in 2001 to continue this project. She had interviewed and befriended. In fact, her and a group of young women had gone to interview, and they got to know these women, and this was, and spent time with them long before they even put them on camera to tell their stories of their experiences during World War II. This was something that has not been acknowledged, and at the time, the Japanese government had not formally apologized for the atrocities coming into these women experienced. They were, back when, at the time, they had been kept in rooms, they were caged animals, abused. If they would try to fight back, they would be beaten. And they were dirty places they were kept in. They were, the women were often either, early teen years or young adult years. And then when they finally got rescued, even their husbands, because some of them didn't get married at very young ages, because even their husbands would respond to them like, "How dare you let this happen to yourself?" Which, that part, reading that, I mean, this whole book was very hard to read and very upsetting to read. Especially hearing stuff like that their husbands would, it's like they responded as if they couldn't look at them anymore. They blamed them for their own assault. And that just made me very angry and very furious that they would even have the audacity to blame them for what happened to them, blame their wives for what happened to themselves. And they are still, Miss Galong could see that these women were still haunted by this, and some of them couldn't even really tell their own stories verbally. Like, there was one woman who had to stitch it in a blanket as a gift to Evelina, because they wanted her to share these stories. They want to make these stories public, because, like I said, the Japanese government at the time didn't even acknowledge it. And they were not the only Asian country that experienced this. It was in China and Indonesia and Korea, as they were all, so that, for just counting the Filipino women, it was 200,000, but if you count all the other Asian countries, it's 400,000 women that experienced these horrors. And there are also pictures in here of these, of these women and what they experienced. And even looking at these pictures, some of these women looked like my own Lola, who was fortunate not to have experienced any of this, not to have gone through this, but some of them did look like her and her sisters. And I think that's probably why it made me actually get emotional, even cry a little bit, tear up a little bit, because, even though, yeah, of course I cried, but I admit I'm not someone that usually cries in books. I am more prone to cry when I get, if I watch a documentary or a movie or a show, then yeah, I would be more prone to cry, but reading, books and, just reading the words and even just seeing the pictures doesn't always give me a visceral reaction. But I did with this book, and maybe it's something to do with the fact that some of those women looked like my own Lola. So, but it was a very hard read, and the one who made the blanket, you got to see she stitched the depictions of all the things that happened to her trying to escape and being grabbed by the Japanese soldiers. And there's the story, and throughout when these women would tell their stories, they would talk so much that they would slip into their own native tongue, their own language, because Tagalog is not the only Filipino language dialect. There's other but I still don't know how to say them. I have to hear someone say them. Maybe I could one day ask my Lola her how to say those, or even my mom might know. My mom or dad might know. It's very weird referring to her as Lola because I never called her that. I always referred to her as my mom because I couldn't say I guess my sister and I couldn't say the L's. But Lola is gran is the Tagalog word for granny. But this was such a tough reading about this, and it just, like I said, it made me so angry seeing what they, and even Miss Galong couldn't, it really affected her emotionally to the point where she struggled to write the book. And it wasn't until, like, most of these women had already, these women who are, they're grannies, they're Lolas, at the time when she's interviewing them, they had already passed away when she finally was able to bring herself to publish the book, which was in 2017, or at least that's what the copyright says. So this is a little bit older, so I don't, like I said, I don't know if the Japanese government ever gave that formal apology, but at the time, the early 2000s, there were protests from these women, and the author and her friends got very much involved in that, and they formed these very close relationships with these women, and it was hard to read, but it was also beautiful to read, just to learn about this and to understand it. You hear about what happened to the Jews, what the Nazis did to the Jews. And as I said, the whole reason I got into wanting to read more about the Philippines and more Filipino literature is because I wanted to get read those stories, learn more about the Philippines and even in the mythology as well. Like, and I don't hear a lot about what happened in the Philippines. Like, you hear the Japanese were just as monstrous. The Japanese soldiers during World War II were just as monstrous as the Nazis were. But I hadn't read a lot of the stories about the specifics of the specific things that they did to these people. I mean, all I knew about was Pearl Harbor, which is my own fault because I didn't look for the literature. I didn't think about it at the time. I was, you learn in elementary school, you learn about, Anne Frank and what the Nazis did and everything, but you don't hear about what the Japanese did until you learn about Pearl Harbor. And I think this is really gives you a good place to start when learning specifics about the horrors of what the Japanese did, and that goes beyond just Pearl Harbor. Because they were, they didn't all of a sudden just become involved during what happened. Like, at the time of Pearl Harbor, they had been involved for a long time. And just reading what they did to these women is just, and what they went through. And it's, like I said, it's just heartbreaking to read. And I don't know what else to say about this book. There's so much, and I think you need to experience it and read it for yourself. But I wanted to do a separate review for it. Because I feel like last year, I feel like when I started this project, I didn't do enough of that, of doing separate reviews of these Filipino works of literature. So I'm changing that this year. But anyway, yes, I think this is definitely an important read. And so please, if you want, please check it out. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Lola's House. Like I said, I am struggling to this review because I don't know what else to say about it. Like, it was so intense and such a worth the read. So if you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below if you want to be notified about my latest videos. And again, please check out this book. Alright, bye!